So it's Saturday, November 29th, and it's late in the evening. I was just trolling news and I was thinking, you know what, there's another video here in trying to help you understand what's going on with that Wall Street Journal piece today. I was deeply disturbed by that piece because it looks like what Putin is doing is dangling deals in front of Trump in such a way that he's interested in the people around this deal making are interested in profiting while they're trying to make peace. They're actually looking at peace, P-I-E-C-E, rather than P-E-A-C-E. I have an MBA, I have a master's in public policy, and never did I think these two things should overlap in the way that I see them overlapping here. And it's just, it's bizarrely bad. Okay, so what am I talking about? So here's an update. So make money, not war, Trump's real plan for peace in Ukraine. It's not about sustainable, just peace for Ukraine. It's about what deals come with Russia when you invite that $2 billion economy back into existence and playing nice with the rest of the world. Who's going to stand to benefit there? And it's looking pretty ugly. Here's one article: sanctioned oligarchs who close to Putin are quietly trying to strike side deals with the United States. Russian oligarchs are seeking new profitable arrangements, even as Moscow and the West publicly remain enemies. The group includes Gennady Timchenko, Yuri Kovalchuk, and the Rottenberg brothers. According to the Wall Street Journal, their representatives have met with American companies to discuss joint projects in gas extraction and rare earth mining. Okay, so we knew about that part, right? Sources say the Russians are offering U.S. partners access to gas fields in the Sea Okhotsk and several other regions. There are also proposals for rare earth mining near Norilsk and 6 sites across Siberia. They have additionally floated the idea of reviving Nord Stream, while ExxonMobil has discussed with Rosneft a possible return to the Sakhalin project. All of this is happening quietly. So this is all bad. Like, Trump made his name in the 2016, like he was irritating the Europeans about, you know, you need to increase your NATO so you're not dependent on us. And that was to be not dependent on the United States. But he also made his name with Nord Stream 2, like saying this is such a terrible idea. You're totally dependent on Russia. Well, he understands this, but yet these kind of deals are going to be going like it's really ugly. In secret talks, this is Ann Applebaum saying, in secret talks, ExxonMobil senior vice president Neil Chapman met Rosneft boss Igor Sechin, Putin's former private secretary, in the Qatari capital Doha to discuss Exxon's return to the massive Sakhalin project, an investment stranded after Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine. And it doesn't stop there. It looks like there's a number of other places where people that are somehow related, a friend of Donald Trump Jr., for example, will stand to make huge windfall profits if this kind of thing goes through. These kinds of the kinds of deals that Trump seeks is to return Russia, to lift sanctions, to just get the thing done. And it doesn't really matter what happens to Ukraine. Kirill Dmitriev saw this and I said, wait, what? Received an American Chamber of Commerce award today for leadership in fostering the U.S.-Russia dialogue. Over 150 U.S. companies currently operate in Russia, more than 70% for over 25 years. The businesses lost 300+ billion in foregone profit in Russia due to Biden's policies. And that's what Kirill Dmitriev is saying as he was talking about this award that he was presented today. Yeah, they lost it. But should you be in business with a country that's doing what Russia is doing right now to Ukraine? And the answer, of course, is no. And if you allow that, then what else won't you allow? They're targeting civilians in their sleep last night, like 4th or 5th largest attack of the entire war. Okay. By the way, Kirill Dmitriev, I just looked this guy up because I was thinking about something else. I read something somewhere and it triggered something. Upon receiving his associate's degree, he transferred to Stanford University. Look, remember I was talking about Ushakov yesterday, who spent 10 years in the United States as a diplomat from Russia to the United States? Yeah, Kirill went to Stanford, from which he holds a BA in economics with honors and distinction. He continued his education at Harvard Business School, where he completed his MBA. These people understand Americans and the American mindset, and so they're using that to great effect to lure Trump. Okay, Michael McFaul, who incidentally teaches at Stanford, says this: the Kremlin pitched the White House on peace through business. That's it. I mean, that's a great summary line. Peace through business. That's what Trump is pursuing. I just had this like aha moment when I read that. And then I saw this. David Frum, who's no fan of Trump, he's kind of in a never Trumper camp, said, the Truman Doctrine was U.S. will aid nations against communist aggression. The Reagan Doctrine was the U.S. seeks not just to contain communism, because that was what it was for the past, before Reagan, for the past 3 decades, it's containment policy, but to overcome it. So the Trump doctrine, and then he says the U.S. will betray allies and reward aggressors, but I'm not sure exactly what it would be, but what would the Trump doctrine be? Like the Theodore Roosevelt, the Roosevelt corollary was U.S. intervention in Latin America, right? Harry Truman was resisting, aid to resist communism. Eisenhower was aid in Middle Eastern nations versus communism. Kennedy, counterinsurgency against communism. Richard Nixon, support the allies but without massive troop deployment. Carter will defend the Persian Gulf interests militarily. Reagan, support anti-communist insurgencies globally. And again, the idea was not just containment, but we're rolling you back. George Bush was dealing with the tea war, right? The war against tea. So what would the Trump doctrine be? It's something about populism, something about we're going to mind our own business, something about we're going to have massive tariffs and make things in America. And it's something about our former allies, we're not really that tight with you anymore. And we're going to cozy up to all these bad people in the world. I'm not exactly sure how to frame it, or if you have a thought about what the Trump doctrine would be, put that in the comments below. But something has materially changed. Now, with all that as a background, let's look at this. Zelensky confirmed Ukraine's delegation is en route to the United States for continued talks based on the Geneva framework. He praised the U.S. side's constructive stance and said real progress toward dignified end to the war is possible in coming days. The delegation has clear directives and a mandate to uphold Ukraine's priorities. Now, he's sending them because of that 28-point plan, which was really a Russian plan, slapped on top of that American approval that this is the U.S. plan, which became the 19-point plan. And so he has to react to this. I looked at that plan and said, it's a non-starter. It's so bad. It's so lopsided. It can't, but they had to react. I'll show you another place before we're done where parties have to react because of what President Trump says or does. Okay, Macron will host Zelensky in Paris on Monday to discuss terms for a just and lasting peace, PEACE, and a just peace, right? Now, at the same time, I wouldn't worry because Putin is not in any mood to come to an actual deal. Even right now, even if he could get all of the 28 points, which he won't, I don't think he wants to do it. Putin reiterated that Russia cannot sign any peace or other agreements with the current or future Ukrainian government, and reiterated that accusations that any Ukrainian government not under the Kremlin's control is illegitimate. Another clear rejection of the U.S. peace proposal. So while all these proposals are going on, don't worry about it. Nothing's actually coming into effect. I just can't see Putin willing to do that. And he's continuing to go on. Putin signed Russia's 2026 budget, allocating at least $166 billion to the war against Ukraine, 1/3 of all spending and the highest military outlay since the Soviet era to fund it Russia/social program. So he's all in. So that $2 trillion, bring that all back to into sanctions, out of sanctions and into the economy. And Trump and his team looks like they may very well be profiting by it. But even with those kind of deals, perhaps set, Putin still has his face set like flint in order to continue to build his military. Okay, let's transfer and go over to this other story about the tankers. So the Russian Shadow Fleet tankers we're talking about are being towed toward Turkey after surviving multiple attacks by Ukrainian naval drones. The vessel sustained damage in the Black Sea that had burned through the night before rescue efforts began. And so here's a fire extinguishing on one of the Russian Shadow Fleet tankers, the Kairos, after being attacked by the kamikaze drone. And they're actually both of them right now. The Kairos on the left and the Viret on the right were heavily damaged, and they're being towed. So they're not sunk. But nonetheless, this is quite a signal to others who might run Shadow Fleet tankers, like they're coming for you. Okay. Last big story. Trump put this out to all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, human traffickers. Please consider the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald Trump. So I saw people saying, well, how could he say that about another country? Well, it looks like he's poised to potentially invade or do something militarily on a small scale. But you see the reaction here. Multiple U.S. Super Hornets turn off transponders near Venezuela. That just happened a little while ago. And then you see Navy Super Hornets off the coast of Venezuela here. And then you see 0 planes over Venezuela reported by RT. And so I looked that up. This is on Flight Radar, and there's no planes over Venezuela. There are these airports along the way, but no planes over Venezuela. So when Trump puts out a tweet, people react, and that's what's happening here. Okay. Last little bit by Darth Putin. I'm not sure Maduro is going to like the multipolar world that we've created. That might be true, but yeah. Okay. At any rate, my big story here was more about what was going on with this Wall Street Journal report, and it's confirmed. Like, there seems to be all kinds of ways that business deals are just going to get going once something goes. But even then, I still don't see that Putin wants to settle anytime soon. So that's where we are. I hope that helps you understand some things. Thank you for your time, the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person who cares about Ukraine.